It's Mickey TV, and this is my week number 5, game number 5, Minnesota Vikings report of the Minnesota Vikings game against the Philadelphia Eagles at Eagle Stadium. I think it's called a Memorial Stadium. I can't remember what their stadium is called, but the end result of that game, surprisingly enough, was the Minnesota Vikings 23, the Philadelphia Eagles 21. In my video prediction about this game, I predicted that the Vikings would lose mainly because I thought their defense was in disarray, especially with what was going on with Everson Griffin, and that Mike Zimmer couldn't handle the adversity that was happening with the defense. And I was proven wrong by this game. I didn't get a chance to watch this game much, but based on the highlights I saw, basically the defense won this game. If it weren't for the big touchdown by the defense, which I'll talk about later in this video, the Vikings offense only scored 16 points and compared to the 21 by the Eagles. Definitely a game in which the Vikings could have easily lost if it wasn't for their defense. And like I said before, I'll talk more about Mike Zimmer and why I still don't think he's a great coach. He's average, maybe good coach. I say he's average. You might be able to get a playoff game out of him every season, maybe 2, but that's about it. I will talk about the scores I will talk about the stats next on the players. Offense, Kirk Cousins was 30 of 37 with 301 yards passing and 1 TD. Their 301 yards is pretty great. What I don't understand is why there wasn't any more TDs in scoring on offense at all. A lot of field goals and missed field goals in this game. So that was quite disappointing. We could have had a much bigger lead by the end of this game if we would have been a little bit more productive on the red zone part of offense. But then again, Eagles do have a great defense. We didn't have much of a rushing game. Latavius Murray led in rushing. We are having problems with the rushing game because Cook is hurt, and we got rookies as backups for running back. But Latavius Murray had 11 rushes for 42 yards, and he did have 2 catches for 14 yards for total yards of 56. Nothing to really be excited about there, and I think their running game improved in the next game review I'll talk about, but in this game and the other past games, the running game hasn't really been there. On the receiving end, Adam Thielen, again, leads the team in receiving yards with 116 yards receiving with 7 catches and 1 TD. And then Stephon Diggs had a pretty good game too as well. 10 catches for 91 yards. Plus he had 2 rushes for 25 yards for a total of 116 yards. I like seeing that for a player. So both of those players, Thielen and Diggs, led in total yards for the game. Offensively, the offense gave up 1 sack, gave up 3 tackles for losses, 4 passes were defended, and they gave up 11 QB hits. That's a lot of hits on a quarterback. I know the sack was only 1, but when you have that many QB hits, you don't want to see your quarterback on the ground a lot during the game. So the offense still needs to gel and come together and figure out a way to be more consistent and better on, 1, pass protection, and 2, on the rushing game. So they need to do better running blocks or rushing blocks, run game blocking. Otherwise, on the defensive side of the ball, this is the big highlight, the big diamond of the game, of these stats. The leader, I will say, for this game, the big player of the game, Linval Joseph with 5 tackles, 4 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 1 QB, 1 touchdown, which was a fumble recovery of 64 yards. That was rather impressive to see by a big man running down the field and scoring that touchdown. I loved it. And I think sharing in the glory of what Linval Joseph did, because Stefan Weatherly here, he was the catalyst in that play because he had a sack on that play which caused the fumble, which went into the hands of Linval Joseph. So in actuality, both these guys should share the limelight of the highlight of the game. Weatherly had 2 tackles and both of which were solo, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 QB hit along with that forced fumble. So a very good game to see from him as well. Other highlights from the defense: Anthony Barr led the team in 6 tackles and 5 solo tackles with 1 tackle for loss and 1 QB hit. Eric Kendricks had 6 tackles, 4 solo with a half of tackle for loss. And then Andrew Sandeo had 5 tackles, 5 solo. And then Mike Hughes had 5 tackles, 5 solo, 1 tackle for loss. So a pretty good game from the defense. I could list even more players that had pretty good game on the defensive side, but totally on a whole on defense, we had 21 points allowed. Most of that was field goals. Maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns. I can't remember. But 21 points allowed, 3 sacks. 5.5 tackles for loss. Now, where do you get a half of tackle for loss? A tackle's a tackle. I mean, your total tackles should round out to be a whole number. How do you get a half a tackle for loss? I don't understand that. And then 2 passes defended. 8 QB hits. They got the quarterback running like crazy. And, of course, on the defense, they scored a touchdown from Linval Joseph. They only gave up 81 yards rushing, but I have a feeling it's because the Eagles had to resort to their passing game and abandon their rushing game, which is good to see. The defense force them into a one-dimensional game, and thus 283 yards passing was given up. A lot of that was given up during the prevent defense stage, which I'll talk about later. But overall, a pretty great game from the defense, and I think they basically won this game. On the special teams, not so good. Dan Bailey was 3 of 5 on field goals and 2 of 2 on extra points. We need better accuracy than that on field goals from our kicker. This guy's new. He's supposed to be good. He missed 2 field goals. That's not good. That's 6 points that could have been put on the board there, or an option to go for a touchdown instead of field goal for more points. If he would have just even made 1 field goal, it would have made things a little bit easier on the team in this game. So still need lots of improvement from the kicker. Now I'll get to the meat of my discussion here, and that's in regards to, as you know, Mike Zimmer. As I said before, I don't think Mike Zimmer is that great of a coach. Once again, like I said, I didn't see much of the game. Actually, I was pretty much working through most of it. And then when I got home, I caught the tail end of it. I think pretty much like most of the way through the 3rd quarter and the 4th quarter. Either way, watching Mike Zimmer again in the second half, we only had 6 points, both from field goals, and he was playing really conservative on the offense again. And then at the tail end, he was doing the typical, I'm going to play not to lose. He doesn't play to win. He plays not to lose, and that's the thing that happened. At the end of the game, he got into an early prevent defense, and yeah, I understand he's trying to force the team to run off the clock, but there was a lot of yardage being given up, and if the Eagles would have made, and it came close on that onside kick on special teams, Adam Thielen recovered that onside kick, but it bounced off his shoulder, and he was damn lucky. It was a lucky bounce that didn't go that far, and he was able to recover it. If that would have happened, I think the Eagles would have won that game because Mike Zimmer would have resorted to a prevent defense, and he can't handle adversity, and he doesn't have an answer to what happens when he's leading the game. So, like I said before, it's not good enough to win in the playoffs, and I think that will be the big downfall of Mike Zimmer. That's it for my report. I'll talk to you guys later. Skol Vikings!